Good afternoon, folks. We'll begin today with the land acknowledgement that the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaty signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. So in today's meeting, we have three new members. I'm going to introduce them and give each of you folks a minute to just tell us something about yourselves. And let's see if they're here. I'm going to start with Megan, please. Megan Chadwick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, nice to meet you all. Yeah, my name's Megan Chadwick, one of the newest members. Excited to be here. I have a background in architecture, specializing in heritage conservation from Carleton, and I'm currently pursuing my master's in architecture at Dalhousie. My thesis project will be focusing on conservation practices as well. So yeah, I was really looking forward to the opportunity to getting more involved in conservation matters in Halifax specifically, where I live. So excited to be here.
That's great. Welcome. Next, we Dr. Rosa Melito.
Hi, good morning. Good
morning.
afternoon, actually.
Yeah.
My name is Rosa Milito, and I am an architect with a PhD in conservation from Italy. I have my own, I work as a principal conservation architect in Halifax. I have my own company, which is Intra Studio. Yeah, I mean, I volunteer on several boards involved with ACAP and now with ECOMOS and with the HRM Advisory Committee recently. I'm happy to be here and would like to contribute as much as I can for the protection of the cultural heritage in Halifax.
That's great. Thank you, Rosa. Rosa did great work with us at the old burying ground.
Yeah.
Wonderful concept pieces. And Ruby Shepherd, please.
Hello, my name is Ruby Shepherd. I work at Fathom Studio as a junior planner with Megan. I have my BCD, so Bachelor of Community Design at Dalhousie, and now I work in planning. And in Halifax, heritage planning is huge. There's a lot of heritage in the city, and it's a big part of planning in the planning context. So I'm excited to get more involved and participate in this committee.
Okay, thank you.
I've also worked a bit on heritage TA, so only a little bit, but I have a bit of an understanding of the process and everything that goes into completing one.
That's great. Thank you. Welcome. At this point, I vacate the chair because it's time for the annual election of chair, and I will be handing it over to our legislative assistant, Simon. So I'll turn off my camera and mute myself.
Welcome, everyone. I am Simon, legislative assistant, and I'll be carrying us through the process for the election of chair. Following the election of chair, the new chair will carry us through the election of our vice chair, following exactly the same procedure again. They'll be doing everything that I'm doing now. So the process for the election of chair is we would make a call for nominations. Any member can nominate any other member or themselves. They just require a seconder. So any nominations, basically like a motion, you just say, I'd like to nominate this person and request a seconder to second that. We will call for nominations. Hearing a lull, I'll call 3 times to ensure there are no nominations that haven't been made that we're waiting on. Once I've called 3 times, if there are multiple nominations on the floor, we'll have an election by secret ballot. And I have some links that I'll be sharing with members to coordinate that process. If alternatively there is 1 nomination and only 1 nomination for the position, then that member will be acclaimed. We'll just request a motion be made to appoint that member as chair to the Heritage Advisory Committee. Following seconding and approval of that motion, the new member will be appointed chair. So if there are no other questions, I would like to begin by opening the floor for nominations for the position of chair of the Heritage Advisory Committee for 2025. Rosa, I'm seeing. Would you
No,
like to make a nomination? Oh, sorry.
uh,
Is there anyone who would like to make a nomination? You're seeing Tyler Brothers, yep.
Hello, Tyler here, and I'd like to nominate myself for chair of the Heritage Advisory Committee.
Okay. Hearing a nomination for Tyler Brothers. Is there a seconder for that nomination?
um,
Seeing, is that
I'll
Rosa?
second.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Okay.
Seeing Nancy Hartling, Councillor Hartling. So there is a nomination for Tyler Brothers as chair of the Heritage Advisory Committee. I'd like to, at this time, ask if there are any further nominations for the position of chair. Asking a second time, are there any further nominations? Oh, seeing Councillor Hensby's hand raised.
That was by mistake. I'm hitting the wrong button here. Sorry.
Okay, sounds good. Then in that case, I will call a third and final time to ask if there are any nominations for the position of chair. Hearing none, I'm happy to announce that Tyler Brothers can be acclaimed as and appointed as chair of the Heritage Advisory Committee. Can I just request a motion to finalize that? Someone make that motion to appoint Tyler Brothers as chair of the Heritage Advisory Committee?
I make the motion.
Okay, seeing Rosa. Is there a seconder for that motion?
I second it.
And seeing seconding from Paul Clark. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Any opposed? Hearing none, happy to announce that the motion has put and passed, and I will hand the meeting over to our new chair, Tyler Brothers, as the chair of the committee. You can carry us through the election of vice chair.
Great. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, everyone. So with that being, I'll open the floor for nominations for the position of vice chair.
I'd like to nominate myself, Rosa.
Great. And can we have a seconder for that?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nancy. And I'll call for any further nominations for vice chair at the Heritage Advisory Committee. So I'll call that for a second time. Is there any further nominations for the position of vice chair? Any third and final time? I'll open the floor to any more nominations for a position of vice chair. All right. That being, I'll have a second. I'll call someone to make the motion to nominate.
So moved.
So moved. And a seconder?
I second it.
All those in favor of Rosa Milito as vice chair for the Heritage Advisory Committee?
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That's so motion passes.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could I take this opportunity to thank Brian for his service as past chair? He's certainly navigated us through a few interesting files over the last number of years. And I want to thank Brian for his service as chair of the Heritage Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Councillor.
I
Thank you,
share that.
Councillor.
Thank
I
you
would
very much.
join in that sentiment as well.
Yes, thank you, Brian. It's been great working with you as your vice chair.
That's great, thanks.
Wonderful, wonderful. So on to the next item. So I'll declare that Rosa Milito has been elected as vice chair. And so approval of minutes. Simon, are there any errors or omissions?
None received by the clerk's office, just scanning the members for any that they may not have brought up until now.
Any errors or omissions to the committee?
So move the minutes as circulated.
Pardon?
I'll move the minutes of March 26th circulated.
Any seconder?
Second,
So all those in favor? Aye.
I,
Those opposed? Motion passes. Carries, sorry. And so, Simon, are there any additions or deletions to the order of business?
Thank you, Chair. The clerk's office has not received any requests for additions or deletions for this meeting today.
And would any member like to move any items? No. So I'll call for the motion to approve the order of business.
I so move.
And a seconder. There's you, Paul. You're muted, Paul.
Okay, I second it. Get mixed up.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thanks, Heather.
All those in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Opposed? Great. So any business arising out of the minutes? I don't believe there's any. And I'd like to ask the committee members if there are any conflicts of interest to declare as a result of an agenda item. Great. And so there's no consideration of deferred business. And Simon, has there been any correspondence received by the clerk's office?
Thank you, Chair. There hasn't been any correspondence received to be circulated for today's meeting.
Great, thank you. And to Simon and the committee members, is there any petitions you wish to bring forward?
Thank you, Chair. No petitions received by the clerk's office.
And to the committee? All right, silence is golden. Great. So on to 9.1.1 cases HRTG Plan 2023-01756, the background study for the proposed downtown Dartmouth Heritage Conservation District Plan. And I'll ask Elizabeth Cushing, Planner 2, to make the presentation.
Thank you to our new chair. Just one moment. All right. Simon, are you able to confirm that you can see my screen?
I can confirm it's full screened and looks good.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So good afternoon, Chair and members of the Heritage Advisory Committee. My name is Elizabeth Cushing, and I'm a Heritage Planner with Planning and Development. And today I will be presenting the Downtown Dartmouth Heritage Conservation District background study. So first off, what is a Heritage Conservation District? So a Heritage Conservation District, or a HCD, is a defined area of historical or architectural value in accordance with the Heritage Property Act. A conservation plan, bylaw, and incentives guide and support development that is appropriate to the historical character of the area. So the Regional Center's secondary municipal planning strategy, often referred to as the Center Plan, identifies 17 proposed HCDs in Halifax and Dartmouth as outlined in Policy CHR 10. Among them is Downtown Dartmouth, which is recognized for its blend of 18th and 19th century buildings that reflect the community's historical development. So this map depicts the locations of the active and the proposed HCDs. The three that are currently implemented include Schmidtville, Old South Suburb, and Barrington Street. HCDs were prioritized based on factors such as the high concentration of registered heritage properties, rare architectural examples, active development pressure, and potential for large-scale redevelopment. In November 2020, Regional Council passed a motion to prioritize the Downtown Dartmouth HCD following the completion of the Old South Suburb and Downtown Halifax HCDs. Staff have been focused on completing the Old South Suburb and Downtown Halifax HCDs, and with that work well underway, we're now able to move forward with the Downtown Dartmouth HCD. The Heritage Property Act outlines a three-phase process for establishing a HCD. There's first the initiation and background study adoption, which is the phase that we are at currently. And there is the community engagement and plan/bylaw preparation, and then adoption and implementation of the HCD plan and bylaw. So again, this background study initiates the HCD process. The Heritage Advisory Committee advises the municipality on the preparation, amendment, any revisions or repeals of a HCD plan and bylaw, the administration of HCDs, and certificate applications that require a public hearing under the Act or under the Conservation Plan and Bylaw. It's important to note that such hearings are typically rare because staff works with the property owners to ensure that appropriate conservation approaches are made. Properties located within an established HCD require a certificate of appropriateness for certain alterations. The HCD regulations aim to address several key requirements, including providing the rationale or the justification for heritage conservation measures, the rationale for the boundaries of the district, outlining the relationship between the conservation plan and bylaw and any applicable municipal or provincial planning strategies, and conducting an analysis of the social and economic implications of establishing the district, particularly in relation to the conservation measures. We'll move on to the historical context for downtown Dartmouth. The Mi'kmaq originally settled in the downtown Dartmouth and Tufts Cove areas, using them as seasonal camps for hunting and fishing. Settlers from England arrived aboard the Alderney, cleared land, and began farming. In 1750, the town plot of Dartmouth was established, which was largely to support Halifax with agricultural goods. By 1752, the Halifax-Dartmouth ferry began service. By 1754, conflict with the Mi'kmaq reduced Dartmouth's colonial population to 5 families, prompting the construction of Fort Clarence. After the American War of Independence, Loyalists and Quaker whalers relocated to Dartmouth and began establishing industries like a grist mill and the Nantucket Whaling Company. In 1786, the original town plot was resurveyed to accommodate the Quakers, doubling building lots and shifting the commercial focus towards Dartmouth Cove. The Quakers later left, but their legacy remains in the town layout, Dartmouth Common, and the Quaker House. In 1796, Jamaican Maroons were exiled to Nova Scotia, many settling in Dartmouth before ultimately relocating to Sierra Leone in 1800 due to severe mistreatment. In 1826, the Shubenacadie Canal was constructed to link Halifax Harbour to the Bay of Fundy, with Irish and Scottish workers building the canal and Sullivan's Pond. The canal opened in 1861 but ceased operations by 1871 due to competition from the more efficient Nova Scotia Railway. By the mid-19th century, Dartmouth became an industrial town, home to manufacturers like skate-maker Star Manufacturing. The town grew post-war, maintaining resilience through the Depression and World War II, largely due to its strong industrial base. The 1954 opening of the Angus L. MacDonald Bridge sparked rapid growth in Dartmouth, which amalgamated with surrounding areas in 1961. Key developments included City Hall, Queen Square, and a new ferry terminal. In the 1990s, Commercial Street became 4 lanes and renamed Alderney Drive. And today, Dartmouth's cultural value is seen in its historic buildings, public spaces, and early suburban neighborhoods. Some additional rationale for conservation measures for downtown Dartmouth is that it features rare examples of historic architecture that dates back to early colonial development. It has rich cultural history, includes Mi'kmaq, Loyalist, Quaker, and Maroon communities that shaped the area's social, economic, and spiritual life. The neighborhood evolved through major industrial developments like the Shubenacadie Canal and continued to grow through industrialization and post-war recovery. Another rationale is the development pressure. So between 2015 and 2023, 109 permits were issued primarily for mixed-use development in downtown Dartmouth. The downtown Dartmouth zone allows floor area ratios ranging from 1.75 to 8.5 and building heights up to 90 meters. So development will still be encouraged through heritage-sensitive regulations outlined in the HCD plan. The HCD study area boundaries were expanded through the Housing Accelerator Fund initiative and are generally bound by Victoria Road/Pine Street, Portland Street, Edward/King Streets, and the Dartmouth Common. These boundaries encompass the original colonial town plot laid out in 1750 and in 1786. The map on the screen shows the boundaries, and the properties identified in yellow are contributing resources. This means buildings, structures, or landscapes that contribute to the HCD's heritage value, and these boundaries may be further adjusted as we proceed to the community engagement phase. The character-defining elements include, but are not limited to, the original Dartmouth town plot from 1750, harbor views from major streets, large square blocks from 1786 that replaced the original rectangular layout, Victorian-era suburbs west of North Street and north of Victoria Road near the town plot, original town plot, the historic church properties within the original town plot, and cemeteries at Park Avenue and Victoria Road. The HCD plan and bylaw will set policies for downtown Dartmouth's historical character, including conservation measures, design guidelines, and permit procedures. Formally adopted by HRM in 2014, the standards and guidelines for the conservation of historic places in Canada are mandated by the Regional Municipal Planning Strategy for evaluating alterations to properties within HCDs. The Downtown Dartmouth HCD aims to strengthen community identity by preserving cultural assets and fostering a human-scale, walkable environment. It encourages the development of a complete community by supporting mixed-use spaces and revitalizing vacant or underused lands. Financial incentive programs help property owners maintain and rehabilitate heritage buildings, which promotes adaptive reuse. The HCD also serves as a tangible link to history, offering educational opportunities and public engagement. In terms of next steps, HAC will review the background study before sending it to the Regional Council for approval. It must also be accepted by the Minister of Communities, Culture, Tourism, and Heritage. Just one moment. The first public meeting will focus on the background study, after which staff will begin drafting the HCD plan and bylaw, which would be followed by another public meeting for the draft. And HAC members are encouraged to attend these meetings. The HCD plan and bylaw will return to HAC for review, then to Regional Council. A public hearing will be held, and again, ministerial approval will be required. The following recommendation is before the Heritage Advisory Committee today for their consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So I was encouraged by the presentation on the proposed conservation district. You know, it outlines a path that preserving the area's unique historic character and, you know, well, also amidst its ongoing developmental pressures. So, I hope that we can help enhance and preserve the vibrant cultural area. So, with that being, can I call for the motion?
Come on, David Jones. I think you'd be jumping all over this one.
Pardon?
I thought David Jones would be jumping all over this one.
Sorry, I didn't quite make you out there.
I'm sure David Jones wants to move the motion on this one. He's probably anxious as a Dartmouth historian.
I will post the I just put the motion in the chat there. Someone wants to put
I'll
that to
move
the
it if
floor.
nobody else wants to move it. All right. I move that the Heritage Advisory Committee recommend that Halifax Regional Council, 1, accept the background study contained in attachment A of the staff report dated February 21, 2025 to initiate the process to establish a heritage conservation district in downtown Dartmouth. And 2, follow the public participation program for HCDs adopted by Regional Council on November 17, 2020, as contained in attachment B of the staff report dated February 21st, 2025 to obtain public input on the proposed Downtown Dartmouth Heritage Conservation District, HCD, plan and bylaw in accordance with Section 6 of the Heritage Conservation District's regulations. Is there a
I can-
seconder?
I'll second it.
Great.
You have a choice of three.
Rosa was first.
For Rosa first, okay.
Thanks, Rosa.
I saw
Yeah.
David Jones first, so I'll go with that one for the minute.
All right. So, any comments about the presentation prior to voting?
Any timeline, Elizabeth, do you think there's going to be the first community engagement with this?
Through the chair to the counselor, I don't think we've identified any set timelines yet, but I would anticipate hopefully by fall.
Now, this being the 275th anniversary of the founding of Dartmouth, or the establishment of Dartmouth as a colonial township, I think this might be a good opportunity to promote this particular heritage conservation zone and get some public input from Dartmouth, especially for the special anniversary.
Great, yeah, through the chair to the counselor, that is a very good point. We'll make sure that we keep that into consideration as we move forward. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Is there any other discussion on the motion?
I'd like to say something.
David?
I really enjoyed Elizabeth's presentation and slideshow. It's really informative. And I like how it really outlined where we go from here and all the steps. And Seamus's 40-page report that I read today, that was also really beneficial. And the idea of downtown Dartmouth for a conservation district has been around for a really long time. And I saw that council initiated the process for this report in 2020, so now it's 2025. So that was too long. But I hope we have the community input session soon and we can get this rolling further. So thanks very much for everyone's efforts. And I'm a big fan of downtown Dartmouth and its history. One thing I want to point out is the PowerPoint mentioned the Maroons, but we don't really know where the Maroons lived in Dartmouth. It was more out towards Preston. But there's a surviving Black community in downtown Dartmouth that's not covered by this district, and that's on Prince Albert Road behind St. James Church. So that community was just called Prince Albert Road, and it's still there. There's still community members living there. And that's in addition to the avenue, which is outside downtown Dartmouth. So I think that's something that should be considered to be included. And there's a little alleyway that goes from Prince Albert Road across from the Star site where there are houses back there. And that used to be called Bose's Yard in the 1800s. And that's all I have to say. So thank you very much.
If
On your point there
yeah.
about the Maroons, I believe there was a spot out here in the Westfall Lake Loon area. It was called Maroon Hill, and I think that may have some of the connections between the downtown Dartmouth and to the Preston Township area.
That's right, Councillor Hensby, and Maroon Hill and Maroon Hall.
I'd like to say one point. Elizabeth had up a brief statement about the Shimanek Canal. There was actually, and David would know more about this, there was actually two attempts to build the canal. One was whatever the dates, it went under, that attempt went under. They tried, and as much as they could muster, it still went under, and it's unfortunate. And as Elizabeth was saying, so many years later, they finished the canal, but unfortunately the timing wasn't right, and the railroad crossed over the tracks. I think the first one crossed over the tracks around Elmsdale, somewhere like that. And so much for that great project. But we were left with the remnants here, and it is being brought back up to light thanks to the rejuvenation of the downtown Dartmouth area. One thing that bothers me about rejuvenation of the downtown Dartmouth area, it's something I called for way back when, and nobody listened to me. I would have liked to have seen a recreation of the tower, the time tower on the old post office building. That goes back to the original structure built back in 1914, and it came down around 1970 due to mechanical problems, and I would have really liked to have seen that rebuilt, but the developer and I didn't see eye to eye on that totally. So therefore, we're left with I won't say a shell of a building because the old post office is looking good. As I told Sam Austin, the post office building really looked good. It would look better with the clock tower. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yes. Thank you, Paul. Definitely a lot of heritage down there. And Vice Chair Rosa? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, my apologies. Is the urban plot part of the character defining element, of course? Are the alleys and the property subdivision lines part of these, including for protection or for somehow in the plan?
Through the chair, yes, it would be. It is identified as a character defining element, that original town plot.
Yeah, the original town plot, I mean, my question was, does it include the alleys and the property lines? The property line subdivision, the original ones? Not only the streets.
Right, I believe so.
But maybe some things that just to, as a note, then.
Right,
more-
yes, we'll make sure to take into consideration as well the alleyways, and making sure that that's
And the property.
acknowledged. Thank you.
Great. So, shall I call for the question and proceed to vote?
I have a further question following up from Rose's comment.
Oh,
So
yes.
any property within the current area, for instance, the Christchurch property, would they be allowed to subdivide their property to allow for a density project on the property that doesn't currently have a building on it?
Through the chair to the counselor, in terms of densification, like once the HCD plan is implemented, we wouldn't be able to go through a process like the Heritage Development Agreement process. That may not be an available option to them at that point. So I can't speak to any specific proposals to that site, and I might defer to my colleague Jesse just to speak a little bit more on that.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. So, was your question about creating new lots solely to get access to the Heritage DA policy, or?
I'm not sure what the designation the Christchurch property has now. I don't know if it's the whole site or just the buildings within the site, but I think they have a proposal for a density project on undeveloped portion of the property. Would they be allowed to do that under this conservation heritage zone?
Yeah, so we have the policy in the secondary municipal planning strategy where properties that are registered outside of a heritage conservation district can get access to the Heritage DA policy. If they are just looking to subdivide a municipally registered property, there's a procedure in place where they could do that, which would involve a heritage review to see if, because some properties, the configurations of the property are very important, whereas other properties, it's more focused on the building characteristics or whatnot. So we look at those case by case basis, but if they are looking to subdivide and redevelop, that's something that they can apply to do. I just don't know, have enough information on kind of what they're proposing or whatnot there, but that's subdivision is something that can be considered for municipally registered heritage properties.
Well, I anticipate their input into this process of the review of this heritage conservation zone.
I may be speaking before putting the horse before the cart. But it's what's being said about the reconstruction, the rebuilding on the land that used to be where the rectory used to be. Or are we talking of that large span of land between the church and the hall? Has that been brought up?
I believe the land is in behind the hall.
The land behind the hall, where the rectory used to be.
I believe you may be right.
Okay, that makes better sense. Okay, thank you.
David?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I really liked Rosa's point and question about the alleyways and the property lines of the two versions of the downtown Dartmouth plot, first from 1750 by Charles Morris I. And I think the second one in the 1780s was by his son, Charles Morris II, who dealt with the Loyalists and the Quakers. It's my understanding there are alleyways in downtown Dartmouth that date at least to the 1780s town plot and maybe the earlier 1750s plot. I haven't seen a good modern overlay of those two plots, which would be really beneficial. But in the Department of Natural Resources Crown Lands office, they have a map where a surveyor had to resolve a dispute from an original 1750s landowner with more recent landowners, and they actually overlaid, they were doing like GIS in the 1780s, they overlaid the two town plots so you can see exactly where the old one is. And that location may be surprising to people because it's very different than the later one. And there are a few streets like Church Street and the little dead part of Prince Street or Edward Street, where that big development is by Daraku and Humble Pie. Those are old, early laneways from the downtown Dartmouth, from the town plot. So there's all kinds of heritage tucked in there that we should try to preserve. So I really appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, and I want also to specify that having those elements as part of the character defining element doesn't mean to freeze the development, to freeze subdivision. It's just they need to be acknowledged and they need to be preserved. There are different ways to do this. So, and that's up to the planners, of course, to decide. So to advise the client, but at least there are elements, there should be elements that are taken into consideration in any type of project, urban and architectural project. I'm also an urban planner in Italy, so that's why I'm like, I worked very much, quite a bit with e-district in Italy years ago. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And I see Megan.
Yeah, hi. I apologize if my question is a bit not at the right time or something, but just unfamiliar with the HCD process in Halifax right now. And I guess I just have two questions. Does sort of clarifying a previous item of the Heritage DA potential within an HCD, is someone able to clarify if you're saying that within an HCD, a DA pathway or Heritage DA is an option, or if they're like the HCD sort of restricts like what impact that has on development within the district?
Sure, through the chair. So it's kind of yet to be determined, but typically we don't go through the Heritage Development Agreement process within Heritage Conservation Districts. It's limited to outside of that. Beyond that, you'd be looking at a site plan approval based on the HCD plan and bylaws.
Okay. And sorry, just a second question as well regarding the plan and bylaw, which again might be brought up at a later date, but is there anything within the establishment of the HCD plan and bylaw that restricts or mandates certain uses of the existing buildings or any new development within the district?
Right, so through the chair, the bylaw for HCDs will include more details in terms of the design guidelines and any uses related to that. And again, like when they would require a certificate of appropriateness and some regulations in terms of demolition.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any further questions? Oh, I see Ruby.
Hi, sorry, I'm just confused about using lot lines for, using lot lines as a character defining feature, because the lot lines have changed so much. So what year are we referencing? What would be the point that we're historical time that we're referencing in relation to the lot lines? Does that make sense? Like what we're referencing the change to? Because I've done the mapping, or I've done a lot of mapping of downtown Dartmouth. And I just took a look at the map and took a quick look, and the lot lines are very different. So I'm struggling to understand how to use that as a character defining feature when it has changed so much in the past.
Through the chair, I believe the intent with that was to speak more to the street network and the grid, not so much like individual property lines. So we're looking specifically at the original town plot from 1750, and again, when that was revised in 1786.
Okay, 1750 and 1786. Thanks.
I mean, if
Great,
it's
Chair. And Vice Chair?
if the reference of protecting and identify the lines and the road lines is also looking at the permanences, so not necessarily stick to a place, permanences and how and what is the significance of change. So I think it's not so we shouldn't put some dates stick in I say framed in stone, stuck in stone, as you say. But it's a process to understanding what are the signs, what are the elements of the urban fabric that have some values, and so it's an assessment that is done elements by elements. So it's a question that requires more than a date as an answer, as Elizabeth was actually saying.
Yeah, sorry, I understand. It was more just
the study
I guess
that probably they're doing, and they did as well.
Just understanding the reference point. I feel like can get murky.
All right, so should we put this to the vote?
I'll
those
call
in
for the
favor?
question.
Yep, and seconder?
I second.
And so all those in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you. So no added items. And the date of the next meeting is May 28th, 2025. So with that, I just require a mover for adjournment.
I move.
Thank you, Rosa. Great. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you May 28th.
Congratulations, new chair. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much,
Chair.
everyone.
And
Thank
Vice
you.
Chair.
Thank you.